Welcome, everybody. This is the last session of Empowering Change, the series of reflection and learning modules designed specifically for ResMap network. Our goal is to embrace resilience and drive meaningful change in our territories. First of all, what is UNESCO? We are a biosphere reserve thanks to UNESCO, but we have to consider what is UNESCO. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. The mission is to promote global peace through international cooperation in education, science, and culture. And specifically, the aim is to help the countries to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. What is a biosphere reserve? A biosphere reserve is something more than just a park. It's a living laboratory. Excuse me. It's a living laboratory and place of learning for sustainable development. The Mayan biosphere approach represents a shift from traditional conservation. The human role, instead of seeing humans as untouchable or excluded from nature, we take the holistic view where human well-being and ecology go hand in hand. Also, there is resource management. We move from protecting static and isolated to interconnect modeling for sustainable use. And the main purpose of this biosphere reserve is innovating and focus on innovation in the future for sustainable development. As we Sí, pero es que no, tiene que pasarme y no me pasa. Ahora, okay. There are 784 biosphere reserves across the world in 142 countries. In Spain, there are 55, and 7 of them are in the province of León. ¿Sabes por detrás? And what is ResMap? ResMap is an international project funded by the European Union through the Prima Foundation. And the objective is promoting adaptation and mitigation solutions based on the WEFE Nexus. WEFE means water, energy, food, and ecosystem. And the objective is to build a landscape resilience against climate change in the Mediterranean Reserve. The project involved diverse partners across the Mediterranean, from Spain and France to Jordan, Slovenia, Italy, Lebanon, and Morocco. And this specific training module is designed to strengthen our technical and conceptual capacities by following the WEFE Nexus approach. In that way, we can assure an integrated and sustainable understanding of our vital resources. What are the objectives of ResMap? There's a lot of objectives. The general one is to promote an integrated nexus. Also, there is another objective, a specific objective, that is the implementation of a WEFE Nexus sociological modeling tool. Also, there are some biosphere reserve sites, not the complete biosphere reserve, where the WEFE Nexus adaptation and mitigation solutions will be development as business model also and in the different biosphere reserve. And just to finish, the training is part of the ResMap projects and the WEFE Nexus approach. So the content of this training has been designed to strengthen technical and conceptual capacities, is promoting an integrated and sustainable understanding of resources in line with all the project's strategic objectives and the WEFE Nexus. With these objectives in mind, let's begin to empower and change. Thank you. And now we will, my partners will continue with the session. Blanca and Paul, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. And welcome back. It's so good to see you back here on this last session. First of all, we want to thank you for bearing with us all these Tuesdays afternoons. and it's been a pleasure for us to do these sessions, and we hope and we think that they're being useful. But anyway, we can't wait to hear back from your feedback when you do the little QR at the end of the session to let us know how it's all going. So today we have the last session, which is a very important topic, which is community engagement. We know that this is a current issue in not only your projects, but many projects that we work with. So we hope to bring you a little bit of insight into what community engagement is and how to engage your local communities into the projects that you are all boosting. So what's the agenda for today? Today, as always, we will have a first part of the session with some theory, some key concepts about community engagement. We will be talking about steering groups. We'll be talking about mapping stakeholders and some other issues. Then we will do the pause, as we usually do, around the middle of the session. Then we'll do another little bit of theory, but more with some practical examples of participation dynamics within specific projects. And then, as always, we will do an activity, which will be a stakeholder map, and we will have a discussion. So, as always, we encourage you to open up your mic if you have questions, or to write it on the chat, and that way we can also foster a little bit more of the debate that we want to have with you guys today. So, yeah, I'm going to pass on to my colleague now, Paul, who's going to start with the first part of the theory. No? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. I had some minor issues before with the mic. Can you give me a thumbs up if it's no? I think my mic's not working. Okay, wait a second.
Oh, yeah, wait. Please say yes.
Yep, cool. Thank you.
I can hear perfectly. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Then let's start. Look, we call this session community engagement, and you will understand why, let's say, after the first point of this presentation. We like to start these kind of sessions related to participation in social business models with what we consider, let's say, an essential foundational element for many social business models and collaborative projects, which is what we call the steering group. Let's see what we mean by steering group. In many cases, when we speak about social business models and business models that aim to have a societal or environmental impact, we talk about collective entrepreneurship. Okay, so at its core, at the core of this type of projects, we have let's say, a committed team of individuals who have a genuine willingness to dedicate personal time, energy, effort to lead, design, create projects that give something back to the community. This is not just a passive advisory board. This is not necessarily either, let's say, a full-time entrepreneurship project, but sort of a driving force for the project. Okay, it doesn't have an ideal number of people. It doesn't have an ideal way of functioning, but it is something that we like to define and encourage people to create. Okay, this must be a group of people that sort of accurately represents the interests, the wider interests of agents, stakeholders, people who will eventually govern the project, and in the early stages is the group that is empowered to make tactical, strategic, operational decisions to design the project, okay, to run the project in the very early stages. So they should have an explicit motivation to participate in the project, in the process, for different reasons. Some of them could be sort of philanthropic, some of them could be business driven, and some of them might be overlapping, no? And they might participate for both reasons. Of course, what we expect from this group is that they are enthusiastic, that they contribute with specific ideas, that they are able to make specific decisions about the project, no, regarding what business line should we start working on and why, what revenue streams should we seek, how can we explain the value proposition of our business model, and essentially act as a sounding board, no, as a discussion place to validate the progress or the setup of the business idea, and a group of people that is able to sort of carry out the necessary tasks to start the project. And besides having this group of motivated people, this group should also have like specific functions. They should be able to identify community needs, community objectives, community desires, let's say, and they should be able to have an informed discussion about the services that are to be offered, yeah, and be able to discuss the technical, economic aspects of our project, how we are going to finance it, and what's the sort of governance model and the level of involvement of new agents. That's our, let's say, benchmark. We always assume that to a certain extent, social business models are able to start with a steering group that is able to discuss, dedicate time, energy, efforts, and in the end, carry out the necessary tasks to develop a business model, yeah? And to lead this type of activities, we would expect these people to be aligned in some of the objectives of the social business model. And it could be putting a stop to the climate emergency. It could be reducing poverty. It could be more like a social cohesion awareness, no? And seeking to getting to know the neighbors and strengthen the community. It could be related to, you know, like a sort of dedicated time to strengthening the economy of the region, of the community, creating job opportunities, demonstrating to other communities that a different way of functioning is possible, you know, creating like a more circular economy ecosystem, or in the end, building the type of world that we want to see. That's the baseline, okay? A sort of aligned purpose on why are we setting up a social business model, and they should, of course, be aware of the responsibilities that this purpose has attached. Do we have tasks? Do we have a decision-making process? Do we have a regular meeting point? Do we work well together? Do we have specific weaknesses or strengths that we should be aware? But in the end, this is a group of people aligned in the purpose and in the tasks, okay? Enthusiasm alone is not enough. A successful steering group, let's say, must, you know, match the passion with clear understanding of societal needs, clear understanding of operational responsibilities. That's the sort of baseline, and we like to help when we are working in individual mentoring, in tutoring, the ones that we might also do at the end of this lesson. We like to work on creating a strong benchmark, let's say, before starting. So a group that works in collaboration, in positive interdependence, so in which people can actually work together with not hierarchies, that they are aligned in the objectives and have good communication among them when there are discussions to ensure everyone is aligned and working towards the same direction, and have a good balance in assuming responsibilities, promoting and encouraging involvement and responsibilities among other actors, etc., etc., etc. Okay, that's our baseline. in later stages, at the end, we would also like to hear the type of projects that exist in your biosphere reserves, if it is the case that people usually work in collaboration or it's more like a sort of individual entrepreneurship. But that's our desired baseline. Yeah, a point in which collective entrepreneurship and steering groups are created, let's say, with other actors who have a word in shaping the economy of their regions, of their territories, of their villages and cities. But assuming that our steering group is working well, today what we will dive into a little bit is the idea of external collaborations, okay, alliances. And we will ask ourselves several questions, let's say, which is, for what reason do we want to create an alliance? For what reason, or at which stage of our project's value chain do we need a collaboration? Do we need community engagement? What degree of depth do we want in this engagement, in this discussion with other stakeholders outside of the core of our business project? What are our red lines and our requirements? So we might want to promote community engagement, but maybe only to a certain extent, because it might affect the very core of our purpose, or it might slow down our operations, and we are not willing to do that. Yeah. So we will try to discuss and give you parameters to make the decisions to answer the question, what kind of organizations, people meet the requirements to participate in the governance or in the community engagement of our business model, and how will they participate? What will each of the new parties do, or how they will contribute to our project? Yeah, what benefits will we offer to them? What will we get from them? And what will be the process of creating this type of alliance, this type of synergy between the community and ourselves? Yeah, that's a little bit the introduction of what we are doing. We are assuming that our steering group is fully established, it is aligned, it is successfully working well under collaborative conditions. And when this is established internally, the next step is looking outdoors. Start seeking collaborations and moving into, the focus of today's session, which is community engagement. So why would we want to engage with people outside of myself or of our steering group? We first looked at the realities of running a social business model, a business in general. And we tried to be honest with ourselves, and what kind of problems or barriers could we realistically face in our initiatives? And to do that, we looked into one of your reports, part of the ResMap project, and identified several very common challenges that tend to pop up across biosphere reserves, essentially. Some of them are, conflicts with neighbors or conflicts with public administrations, people, administrations, sometimes even enterprises who do not want a very specific business to be run near their house or near their village, or they are not interested in this happening in a protected environment like a biosphere reserve, or there are other type of conflicts with neighbors or public administration. Sometimes it is related to licenses, or sometimes it is related to competition. If someone is already running a very similar business model and we try to create something new, they might also be somewhat, let's say, reluctant to us being in the market. Other problems or barriers that we identified in your report are staff shortage and also technical or logistical limitations. We might not have the people with the technical skills around us to run this type of project, the type of idea that we have in mind. For instance, with the nature-based mental health therapies, we might not have all the professionals we would like to have around the village or the town to actually run the business, or we might have technical or logistical limitations related to transportation, etc. Amal, tell me, please.
Yes, thank you. Maybe also we can talk about divergence in interests. It could be a barrier, right?
Yep, definitely. That's an example of conflicts with neighbors or conflicts with public administrations.
Okay.
No, people that have clashing interests in the type of activity. No.
Okay. Thank you.
No, I think I was asking. Yeah, maybe
yes,
it might.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's it. The divergence in interests. It may be the same thing with the same thing as the conflicts that you have talked about. Yes. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other examples of barriers? Anyone wants to give us another example that they have encountered in their daily life?
Or resistance for any innovation ideas from these people. It might be also a barrier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Resistance for change, for any change, so for any business.
Yeah, exactly. We might find resistance for changes in the business environment or just for the installation of new businesses. We might, as I was saying, we might face some technical or logistical limitations related to transportation or to materials available or to whatever, some specific professionals that we might need that are not available in the Biosphere Reserve. And we might face other typical barriers like access to technology or access to finance. If we need something very specific, like, I don't know, we want to make these therapy sessions hybrid so that people can access it from home, but we do not have the adequate IT, let's say, setup to actually do that, or our users don't have the adequate IT setup to follow the sessions, or we might not have funding available at the very beginning to actually start running the project. So these are the typical barriers that might make it difficult to start running day-to-day operations. Thank you, Amal, for the different examples as well. And the idea of the session today is that most of them, or at least some of them, actually could be worked out through participation, community engagement, community governance, okay? So sort of opening the discussion on how to run our business model to the community, to society as a whole. Yeah. This is where community engagement, democratic governance show their value. They are not just nice concepts, they are practical tools to resolve structural problems, barriers, etc., because by building a participatory model in which you turn neighbors from potential critics into co-creators, you unlock some community resources, some ability to solve staff shortages, to access better finance, for instance, in some cases, or to access new assets that could help you run your business model and in the end bring social value. Okay, so that's why we are speaking about community engagement and community governance today as part of this social business model. Let's break down a little bit exactly what we mean when we say community engagement, because as I said, it's a nice word, but besides this word, it's, let's say, a specific activity that we mean by that. By community engagement, we mean the continuous process of working with people, with organizations near us, or sometimes not so near us, who share some interests or find themselves in similar situations to address issues affecting their well-being, but also affecting their community, affecting their business activity. And based in dialogue, we can exchange opinions and ensure that they have a voice in the type of decisions we are making to run the activity and in the end bring societal value. Okay, so by community engagements, we mean continuous process of working collaboratively, continuous process of discussing with people and organizations. And we like to say that when we do that, it's not just based on, let's say, an open floor or a vacuum, but it starts by, let's say, identifying the community strengths. Okay, it doesn't start just by, like putting a banner and making people sit on a chair, but it starts on identifying resources, skills, capacities that are already available in a group or in an area. And this can be physical assets, but also like, let's say, intangible assets in the form of like local knowledge or cultural heritage or expertise from local people, networks that already exist, like labor unions or social movements, or it could be business unions as well. Yep. So continuous discussion, but not based on the vacuum, but based on the resources, both physical and intangible, that already exist in the region, in the territory. And this basically means that we're taking an asset-based approach, okay? A methodology that intentionally focuses on these community strengths, on community assets, rather than on the deficits or of the problems, okay? It's not about walking into a room and saying, okay, what is wrong with us and what is missing, but sort of changing the script and saying, okay, what do we have here and what can we build upon it, okay? Have we been working together long enough in the field of growing crops? Yes, okay, what can we do from that? Have we been working regularly with some specific providers? Okay, what can we get from them now? Do we have a strong, let's say, social movement and political participation in our city? Okay, what can we get from these networks that already exist? In the end, empowering individuals to use what they already do, what they already have, to participate in also shaping the economy. Yep. This sounds very abstract, and we will then convert this into practical tools. But in the end, what we are discussing is the governance of our organization. Who makes decisions in running the social business model? Governance, in the simplest definition, is the way in which the government of an organization or an entity makes decisions. And when we talk about democratic governance, what we mean is incorporating people into making this type of decisions. Yeah, so that's what we mean when we say engagement. We mean people helping us make decisions related to the type of services that we want to offer. Have we asked all these customer segments that we said we wanted to sell them mental health therapies in the forest? Did we ever ask them if that's a business line that they need? All those providers that we needed to actually run the activities, like the guide for the forest or the professional therapist, did we ask that people if they are interested in bringing the activity to our territory? Or the city councils that we said we might need to engage with to get some licenses. Did we ask them if that's part of a strategic decision-making of the institutions to bring this type of economic activity in the area? That's what we mean when we say we must adapt governance to engagement with relevant stakeholders, to people, incorporating them to the governance of the activity. Why? Well, because it establishes good levels of, let's say, internal democracy. It is an example of transparency. It is an example of ensuring that the value that we are creating, it is actually responding to the needs of the people in the area. It is a good way to ensure that we are accountable for the type of decisions that we're making. No, if we decide to charge schools for mental health therapies in the forest, we must be able to openly discuss with schools if it is working, if it is having positive impact on kids, if it is helping teachers to actually be able to run or have a better environment in the classroom. If we are doing that for firms in the region, for instance, we might need to incorporate them to assess whether the sort of team building activities that we're doing for businesses in the Biosphere Reserve is actually working for them to have a better work environment, be more productive, etc., etc., etc. So it ensures that our social business model focuses on genuine value generation, and we are accountable for actually generating this value, okay? Incorporating gender, social, environmental perspective into everything we do. But not only that, but it can also help us from a strictly business perspective. If we want to run, let's say, these workshops or these sort of mental health therapies for school-age kids who might be in a better position to shape the type of activities that they need than schools in our region. If we want to do this for team building activities in local enterprises, who might be in a better position of helping us than people running enterprises in our environment. So it's not only a matter of generating better value, of being transparent, of being accountable, of everything. It's about us learning. It's about creating sense of belonging to the customer segments that we identified, and it's about empowering people in the region to participate in the value generation process. In the end, businesses, social businesses, are about generating economic, social, environmental value. So the best way to ensure that they are indeed generating value for everyone is to incorporate people in governance, to engage with them, to shape the service lines, to shape the selection of providers, to shape decision-making in the business activities. But who should we involve? Okay, we said a lot of names, but we actually need to map them a little bit. And to map this, what we do is we look at three, let's say, dimensions, which is people who can participate. We look for areas in which they actually could participate. And we look at the intensity of their participation, about how much they could actually get involved. Yeah. So in the end, the expression of this democratic governance, of this community engagement, is making sure that people can decide within the spaces where they actually play a role. It's not about getting everyone in an advisory board. It's not about having all the community in our steering group, in our entrepreneurship, let's say, team. It's about having people give opinions, make decisions, shape decision-making where they might actually be able to do that. And this participation is not an all or nothing game, okay? It's a spectrum of intensity. I don't know if in any of your projects you have at least discussed, for instance, with someone about the type of services that you would like to run, or if you have asked someone for their opinion, or if you have asked someone to sense check the type of activities that you are running, or if you decided that one specific business line, you will run it with another organization because you don't have all the information yourself, or even if you have, let's say, shared the decision-making capacity for some activities to someone else because they could do it better, and you make them part of the operational and governance decision-making process for one of the service lines of your activity. Have you exchanged ideas with someone for your business activities? Have you discussed with someone anything that is worth sharing with the class? Did anyone talk to a city council regarding your activities, your business ideas? No one? Yes. Carmen, what did you do? Come on, let's engage in the discussion. Did anyone create a group of volunteers for their business activity? I would love to hear some examples because we will have to work on new ideas at the end of the session. Okay, so the forest bathing entrepreneur has spoken with local councils and action centers. Okay, so that's an example of community engagement. Yeah, assessing whether my business idea, my social business model is actually aligned with priorities among public administrations, let's say policy priorities, checking if it is valuable according to the opinions of social workers. Yeah. So as we were saying, participation is a spectrum. No, that at the baseline it could be limited to informing, a one-way channel like sending out a project newsletter. Carmen saying, yeah, the entrepreneur also spoke with us from the reserve to introduce us to the project. Yep. So exactly, basically at the baseline of community engagement, there's information, sending some information about our project to people who might be interested in this. It could be public administration, just to make sure that they are, let's say, aware of our activities. But we could also consult with someone else. No, we actively collect some feedback, perhaps through community service, for instance, to see if clients are actually interested in that, if clients would like to help us with something, if people would like to disseminate this among these because they find it an interesting value proposition for a community with low economic activity. We could even involve people in developing and testing some prototypes, no, sort of making them feel ownership over the activity. Yeah, because why we are shaping the type of activity that this business will deliver to the community, and we want some volunteers to help us bring the best value to the territory, to the city, to the village, to the neighborhood, to the town, etc., etc., etc. So we work directly with people to test the product or service and ensure that their needs, their priorities, their desires, their interests are reflected in the service that we are doing. We are always with the example of the mental health therapist, but it could also be, for instance, some sports activities that we want to start organizing regularly in the town. Why wouldn't we want people to be able to participate as volunteers, as guidance for kids, for teenagers who want to engage in these activities, as referees, as trainers, or maybe just as whatever they feel in that moment, as the coach of the team, of the activity. Yeah. Or we might not only involve them as volunteers, but collaborate with them. So create a proper commission for an event in which we, as business, assume the operational management, financial responsibility of making sure it happens, but workers, people across different organizations, they have a role in there. They have a saying. They have a responsibility over operational or logistical activities in a way that they manage to contribute to bring societal value to their community. Or we could also, give them decision-making powers, let's say, being able to change business services if we hire them to be our local connectors, for instance. And that's a very typical way of operating. We hire local connectors in towns, villages, cities, and we give them autonomy to make decisions on the type of workshop that we will deliver, the type of service that we will deliver. Yeah. So that's a little bit the idea, depending on who the stakeholder is: public administrations, clients, volunteers, workers of other companies, members of our team as well. It could be members of the same organization. We design their participation intensity across this spectrum, across their capacity and their willingness to participate. In social economy organizations, we tie all of this together in two concepts, let's say. One thing is the concept of alliance, which might be the formal union between two parties to achieve long-term objectives. And it can happen in different, let's say, dimensions or different areas, like alliances between entities, between people, between towns or political groups, and it might have different objectives, like cross-selling or contributing to each other's business activities. But in the social and solidarity economy, we call this intercooperation, which is the specific mechanism to cooperate between organizations. Yeah, and it essentially reflects the opposition or the change in the moving from traditional market tendency to compete and only seek, let's say, self-interest and economic return for our activity, to creating collective value, income-generating opportunities for both businesses to be feasible. One example, I think we discussed this in the very first session. In Spain, there are 3 cooperatives which deliver mobility services, car sharing, electric car sharing services, communication services, so mobile phone, etc., and energy services. And they discovered that, people who might be interested in electric car sharing services are potentially also interested in cooperative energy production and ecological energy production and communication solutions. So they discovered that by intercooperating, so by cross-selling services, by helping each other to sell the other people's services, they could also increase their own revenue, and they could actually increase the societal value that they are bringing to society. So it is not just a matter of basic collaboration. Yeah, I'm in this town, come hang out and we'll see what we can do. It's a process of joint construction of economic relations and shaping the market of our region based on the collaboration between organizations. Yeah, so it's not just having a discussion with people, but about helping them sell, helping them work, helping them make businesses, and this will in return help us also make better businesses. Yeah, so that's a little bit the introduction on what we are doing and what's about community engagement. What we want to do now that we understand this strategic importance of alliances, of community engagement, of intercooperation, is moving into mapping stakeholders. When we begin mapping our community, it is very important to understand that we do not necessarily need grand strategies, overly complex corporate strategies. Okay, it is not about having a massive document in which we absolutely have everything under control, but it's just about knowing certain foundational elements of people around us. Okay, to successfully engage your community, and by community we mean people, we mean administrations, we mean organizations, we mean businesses, we mean social movements, you must be able to answer these questions before looking for friends around you. Okay, you can copy paste them once you receive the presentation. First is, what do we want to achieve? What are the objectives of this collaboration? Do we need them to help us define the business line because we are not sure that it actually works? Or we want them to work with us in this event because we do not have the operational capacity to run the activity? Or do we want them to offer us better deals in buying materials, for instance? Okay, we need explicit objectives, and we can be transparent about that. It is not a problem to say, look, I need an alliance because I lack the operational capacity to organize the activity. It is what it is. Okay, it's important to be transparent. Second is, with whom do we want to achieve it? Okay, identifying the essential group, person, organization, administration that can help us achieve those objectives, and get to know them. See, where are these people? Where are these organizations? This is not only about their physical presence, but it's about the channels, the platforms where they naturally gather, their digital presence. Okay, where do we have to find them if we need to actively engage them in an open and transparent discussion? And we need to know what do we have, or what are we looking for when we talk to them? What interests me and what interests or concerns them? This is about thinking about the message. It allows us to craft, to create a meaningful proposal, a meaningful message that makes sense to them. Look, I need help with organizing this activity because I don't have the skills, or I don't have the team size, and it might help you in your, if you are an environmentalist group, in shaping, let's say, the conscience of the community for environmental issues. If you are a business, it might help you reach new audiences. If you are a public administration, it might help you in, increase the sense of belonging to the community from all the population. So, yeah, what do I want to achieve? With who? Where do I have to find them? And what can we exchange? What do I want from them? What might they want from me? Or what are their concerns in general? And once you have this very clear, it's about who is in charge of what and when will we do it. What's the calendar? What's the activities? What's the action plan that you want to propose them? Look, we need you to participate in this activity on that day by preparing the activities and setting up the stage and joining us in the event. Okay, so a clear action plan and budget. What do we need to do and how much it will cost? Okay, outline a realistic budget and resource plan. Once everything is clear, you need to sit down with yourself and then with them and agree on how you will know that what you are doing is working and that the alliance, that the engagement is functional. Okay, we need specific indicators to understand whether the objectives that we set in the beginning of the activity are working in the end. Yeah, I'm testing this function of the PPT to make small drawings. Okay, so these are the questions that you need to ask yourself when looking for someone. We believe, I will try to link it with what I said in the beginning. We believe that community engagement is important to address many barriers that exist in running and especially in setting up, in the early stages, a social business model. But before looking these alliances that we do believe that are important, you need to actually map why you are looking for these alliances, what you are actually looking for. Yep. And we will do a map later on to clarify this type of structure. To help you answer those questions and actually analyze each stakeholder group, we look at them through the lenses of this framework, which is the want, know, can framework. Because it helps us understand what drives people to participate, what requirements they need to participate, and why would they actually participate. The one dimension is about their attitude, their commitment, their interests as well, their desires. So if a stakeholder doesn't genuinely want to be there, the rest won't matter. Then you need the know dimension, which is about having access to the right information, to the technology, to the knowledge? Do they understand what the social business model is about? And do they have the skills to help? And the third is the can dimension, the capacity. So do they have the structural capacity, the resources, the time as well? Because they might want to help, or they might like your idea, but if they simply don't have the time or ability, you need to adjust your expectations. So in the case of the forest bathing entrepreneur that has spoken with local councils, what would local councils want about this entrepreneur? Or what would, the forestal engineer want about this entrepreneur? Why would these people be interested in participating? Do you have an idea? Do you have an answer? Have you encountered the situation in which there is someone who wants to participate but cannot or doesn't know how to do it, or the other way around, someone that knows and has the channels but doesn't want to help you? Is there a case that you would like to share? Not yet. Okay. Anyone else? Any thoughts, ideas, comments? One example of people, luckily. One example of people we might want to engage at some point in our activities. This is the sorry, wait a second, because I think I'm using one like small old version of this. Yeah. Let me check something. Okay, no, much better. Sorry, it was a small, a small issue. So this is one example of groups we might want to engage. Yeah. We could be willing to talk to people, to young people with environmental awareness. We might want to talk to old people who want to save money, in their daily lives, or we might want to speak to neighbors from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. No, we have in the core idea of our social business model and of our, let's say, societal impact, we have the objectives of engaging these people. Why? Because we believe it is the right thing to do. We have to, let's say, understand where are these people and how do they look like, in order to understand why would they want to participate and why and how can we find them. Okay, segmentation is key, let's say, to moving away from merely informing people and move towards actually connecting with them, discussing with them valuable ideas. If we have young people with, who are driven by this intense environmental awareness, they will respond to a message about sustainability. Why is our social business model of mental health therapies in a biosphere reserve also connected with sustainability? Whereas if we have neighbors from lower socioeconomic backgrounds or older people who want to save money, well, they might need a different conversation, a different approach on how mental health problems affect more people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds or old people who feel alone, in order for them to understand the value of our activity, of our business model in that specific region, okay? And we need to understand where do we find them, because to engage with them, we need specific channels to promote their participation. It could be social media, it could be community events, it could be sports and culture clubs, it could be in the market, it could be in facilities for the elderly, or it could be in public services or in clubs, in reading clubs, for instance. So we need to map their interests and the channels to connect with them. And it could also be people, but it could also be organizations, okay? We might want to engage with environmentalist community groups, people who are driven by a purpose, who have a low budget to contribute to our business idea, but might actually be interested in that because it helps them in their awareness campaigns, for instance. How can we find them? Well, for instance, through social media. And what can we get from them? Well, promote conscious consumption among customer segments. Whereas we might also have some local enterprises who seek an economic return, but have a good budget to contribute to the activity. Well, in these cases, maybe we can make agreements with them related to the provision of goods and services, and we get economic return for them and also for our business idea. And we might also even engage with labor unions, for instance, people who are working for better job conditions and might be interested in cooperating with the governance of our activity in order to make this mental health support available in their enterprise. Okay, so in essence, the idea is that segmentation is key to move from informing to actually connecting. Okay, communication is not just about information, it's about meaningful engagement for the recipient. Yep. And it can be people, it can be organizations, and it could even be people inside the public administration. It's not the same if we need the support of a politician that if we need the support of a technician in the public administration, or if we need the support of voters. Yeah, it's different, the type of engagement that we need. In some cases, we might need to offer an engagement driven by, let's say, the purpose of taking care of the environment, of taking care of mental health of people. In some cases, we might be, our collaboration might be driven by avoiding administrative conflicts, making sure that the activity is according to all the specific licenses that are requested, etc., etc., etc. So engagement starts with adequate mapping of stakeholders. And once we have the groups, we need to map what we want from them, okay? Their areas of participation and how they fit into the ecosystem of our social business. And we do this by cross-referencing, let's say, who they are, what do they look for, and how they interact with us. Yeah, so it could be in strategic decision-making, and here politicians might be involved. It could be in daily operations, so helping the team, contributing to the organization of activities. It could be in the area of promoting the community benefits of our activities, and we involve networks of social movements, environmentalist groups, labor unions in widening the impact of our business idea, or it could be in the provision of specific goods and services in which we might need help from other enterprises. We might need public administrations to inform us about the best opportunities to receive new materials in the area, etc., etc., etc. Okay, So we map stakeholders, we map their capacity to participate, and we map the area of their participation. We, let's say, promote a lot community engagement. As we said, it helps us face many of the barriers that we identified or that you identified in your first report. It might help us with staff shortages, technical and logistic problems, funding, etc. It fosters involvement of the community in defining the business idea, so it enriches the definition of the business model. It promotes motivation and commitment, so it legitimates the decisions of who's running this business. So what Amal was saying in the beginning about divergence in objectives, if these objectives, if these goals have been discussed, our decision making is more legitimate and will have less conflicts at a later stage. And this, in the end, is also a competitive advantage for our business idea, because we are more creative, we have more innovative ideas, and in the end, our product or service is indeed better. Yep. But if we are entirely realistic, there are also some trade-offs, let's say, related to slower decision making. It might generate conflicts, which in other cases we might be able to avoid them. It might dilute responsibilities. So if we make a very collaborative structure, at some point we might not be clear about who's responsible of what. It can be exhausting. Community engagement might be absolutely exhausting if you want to actively engage all population groups involved in the process or impacted by your activity, and hence it requires time, dedication, budget, and in some cases it might not even guarantee the representativeness of everyone in this activity. However, generally, what we try to think in this type of social business models is that advantages outweigh these challenges, okay? The involvement, the co-responsibility, the community meaning, the improve in the competitive advantage of our activity, and the legitimacy that we have in the decisions of the business in a protected environment, in a sensitive environment. It strengthens the business idea. Okay, that's a little bit the introduction that we had in mind for community engagement. What we want to do next, basically, is share with you some specific examples of activities. So this has been very, let's say, theory-based, and we want to share with you how we have discussed, engaged with a social business model to make sure that they design their activities in a collaborative and democratic way. But first, to be fair, I would like, again, to hear, does this sound well? Do you feel these advantages outweigh the inconvenience? Do you think that it is meaningful for your business idea to actually engage with someone? You know, I know that you have not done it yet, but do you think it makes sense for you to involve someone in the governance of your activity at some stage? Does it sound well? Maybe. Thank you, Amal. Not yet experienced it. Okay. But where do you imagine you can involve people in decision making? Is it in deciding the business lines, or is it in deciding who will provide materials to us, or is it in deciding what customer segments do we target? Or, it could be in many things. It could be in prices also. Depend what kind of people are around. Yep. Thoughts, comments, ideas?
First of all, what do we mean, no? By participation dynamics, no? How people actively can take part in collective decision making. And here, the cycle you see at the bottom of this slide is very visual, is how to make people being from a more passive role to a more co-owner role of a business or an activity. Yeah. So basically, what we want to engage is people evolving from this passive role to being more participant in decision-making processes. And it's all about redistribution of the power within the community. Yeah, we want communities to get empowered about their own projects. And what we find is that collaboration between people, what brings out, is this this sense of belonging and co-creation, and hopefully arriving to the sense of co-ownership. Yeah. So basically, what we want to do is I was saying, go from passive users to active co-creators. So this is the idea, the objective. And we're going to see this in 3 examples. If you want to pass the slide, thank you. Yeah, we're going to see this in 3 real world models of collective participation. Yeah, the first one we're going to see is a energy community. Then we're going to see a worker cooperative, and then we're going to see a consumer cooperative. Okay, so first of all, we have the energy community model. And I don't know if you guys know what an energy community is. We're working a lot on those lately here in Spain, I think in the rest of Europe as well. But so basically the story is, you imagine you have a small town, and the electricity prices are rising, and they're volatile depending on market. And then the residents decide that they don't want to keep depending their consumption of energy and paying their bills, depending on this volatility of the market, and they want to have more control, over the power of more control over the prices that they're paying for their energy. Yeah, not only more control over their energy bills, their electricity bills, but also they want to know that their energy is produced locally. It has a lesser impact on the environment. Yeah, and the idea then is that all of these citizens of this town, what they do is that they get together to produce their energy locally. Yeah, so instead of waiting for a large electricity company or for the government to come and solve the issue, what they do is that they get together. Some neighbors can put their house ceilings to put solar panels. Other neighbors can have money, or they have lands also to put solar panels. The local government decides to help with the installation locally of the electricity cables that need to be put. And then what they do is they start producing their own energy. And this energy they're producing, they're consuming it for themselves instead of selling it or dropping it to the grid. Yeah. So in this model, what we see is a little town, a village, is creating an energy community. And instead of being consumers like they were before, they're actually co-owners of the energy system. Yeah, they've like evolved from being passive consumers of an energy system to being actual co-owners and proprietors of an energy system. Yeah. So what are the benefits that we see here? They have lower costs. Yeah, they're less energy dependent on the exterior of big energy companies. Yeah, they're also engaging in environmental sustainability because the energy they're producing is renewable energy produced locally with the sun. Yeah, and they're also creating this local empowerment for themselves. Yeah, so this model is very powerful, and here the participation is not only symbolic, but it's also changing who owns the resources and who's making the decisions. Yeah. So as I was saying, we see that this model is very powerful. It's having a big impact lately in Spain, and we know that in the rest of Europe as well. So it's a very interesting model of seeing how this type of participation within like people in a small place is actually bringing a lot of benefits to a wider group of people. Yeah. So this is the first case we wanted to show you. And now we're gonna evolve to from energy to a work cooperative. Yeah, we were energy cooperative, and now it's a worker cooperative model. So what's a worker cooperative? A worker cooperative is basically a company that instead of being owned by one major stakeholder or just 2 or 3 major stakeholders, is a company that's owned by the group of people that work in the company. Yeah. So the workers themselves own the company and the employees are the owners. Yeah. What does this mean? This means that the people working there, they're not only working there and earning money to work there, but they're also participating in the decisions about the future of the organization. Yeah. They together decide what are the salaries, what are the investments, what are the priorities, what are the working conditions, and what are the growth strategies. Yeah. So, for example, if it's a very profitable year for the cooperative that year, then the workers, the owners of the company, they get together and they get to decide what they do with the profits. Yeah, where do they invest the profits? What decisions they want to make together? How do they want to expand their activities? Yeah. So here, the participation of this group of people is what it's doing is changing a workplace environment, and it's changing the relationships that happen in a workplace. And here workers are not only executing the decisions that are made from above, but they are shaping them together as a collective whole. Yeah. In Tandem, our company where Paul and I work, we're a working cooperative. Not everybody that works in Tandem is member of the cooperative yet, because we have to pass several years until we can become members. But the idea is that eventually all the workers of the workplace can become members of the cooperative, and we can all participate in the decisions that take place here. And as I was saying, it's from, you're not only a passive worker, but you're also part of this collective ownership of a business, and you can shape the direction of where you want to push that business towards. Yeah. So also a very powerful model, and yeah, that's it. Okay. And then the third example we wanted to show you was what is the now we're going to switch from working to consuming. Yeah, we were also talking about consuming energy before when the energy community, but now we're talking about consuming other types of goods. Yeah, like what we eat, what we drink, what we buy, etc. Yeah, so a consumer cooperative model is basically a cooperative that's owned by the consumers. So imagine now that we have a group of families, yeah, that they're frustrated with the prices that they're paying in the supermarket. They're also frustrated with the industrial food system in general. They don't know where the food they're buying is coming from, or where the products are coming from, or what environmental impact of the products they buy is behind. Yeah. So instead of like looking individually for solutions, what they do is they get together and they organize and they say, okay, let's do a cooperative and let's decide together what we're going to buy, who the local producers that we're going to get the food from are. We know who's behind this this food that we're actually providing to our cooperative. And so they decide collectively which products are sold, which product producers they support with their activity, and what are the ethical and environmental value purchasing decisions behind the cooperative, yeah? So the cooperatives can decide who they support, as I was saying, if they're supporting local farmers, for example, or they can decide if they want to focus more on organic production. The different consumer cooperatives can take different decisions. Yeah, and the what's interesting about these models is that between their own consumers, they can decide what is the main objective of their cooperative and focus more on one thing or on the other. Yeah. So here participation is happening through consumption choices. Yeah. And through governance as well. So they are not clients, consumers are not clients anymore, but they actually become members of the whole system, and they shape the system as well, yeah? So what we've seen here is 3 examples of different models, and you can pass, thank you, Paul. And here we have a little summary to show you how participation can change in one model or the other. In the energy community, we had citizens and institutions that were participating, and the type of participation was ownership plus production, yeah. In the worker cooperative, we have the workers that are participating, and the type of participation is governance plus and ownership. And the consumer cooperative, who participates? The consumers, obviously, and the type of participation is demand and governance. 1 second, I was going to read the comment that Carmen wrote on the chat. For example, in an association where you do very different activities, we see that it makes more sense. But in a company that you're creating alone, we find it harder to see it. I don't know how we can involve people in our decision-making without losing our decision-making power and our own objectives. Yeah, that's your very, very wise comment, Carmen, there. Well, yeah, but I mean, you need to, it's a risky choice, yeah? Like if you want to open your activity to other people that might have a different voice than the one you have, then what you need to do is negotiate, yeah? And it's not an easy process, but it's also an opportunity to nurture your activity and to evolve it in a way. So I don't know what else to say to that, but you're very right, Carmen. Yeah. But association and cooperative are not that different in the sense it's not the matter of I don't know if we're talking only about size, because an association can be very big. You can have an association of like 500 members, so that would also be risky. A cooperative as well, it can be a small cooperative of 5 people and a big cooperative of 100, no? So I think in the end the idea is to find, as a group of people, what you have in common, what you want to achieve, what are your goals, and then try to like make the agreements to reach to the same point where you want to reach. And it's not always going to be an easy way. And that's why governance is basically the hardest, no? The hardest element of these sort of models, because you finally, what you want to do is you want to that everybody agrees all the time, and it's not always possible, no? And actually, this brings me to a very important point I wanted to make, that in cooperatives, there's a very important principle, which is 1 member, 1 vote. Yeah, and this is something that you always have to keep in mind, because it creates confusion sometimes when big companies, for example, join a cooperative, and there's the risk of people thinking, oh, a big company, they have more money and then they're going to have more power. Well, in cooperatives, that's not it. The governance democratic principle is that one person, one vote, no matter how powerful or how much money that person might have. Yeah. So I don't know if this helps a little bit what you were raising, Carmen, but yeah. But thanks for your point. So yeah, here we had the table, and I guess we're gonna pass to the little exercise now, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. So, basically, the idea is, as Carmen was raising and Blanca said, that participation can take many forms, and there are some pros and cons in different types of participation. Energy communities, workers, cooperatives, consumer cooperatives are different, let's say, legal forms of engaging communities in production, consumption, in defining business models. But there are many, many different ways in which the decision-making power distribution, let's say, it's more nuanced, no? Which is a little bit the concern that Carmen was raising. There are ways which might not be, like creating new legal entities, in which a business model, a project, an organization can share decision-making power and engage with the community in making decisions related to the idea. Today we brought basically 3-4 different examples on how you can animate a discussion to start making decisions related to your business idea. Why? Because we know that the first, let's say, intuition when we think of community engagement is like, okay, let's bring people together and have an open floor for feedback. And that's fair enough, let's say. But as we said in the beginning, we first have to map their interests, our goals, their capacities to participate, their knowledge, and their actual intention to participate. And once we've done that, and we brought the people together to actually discuss something, we need to have a, let's say, practical way of making decisions, setting common goals, and deriving actions from that. So we brought you 3 different activities you might want to, let's say, run with potential stakeholders, potential alliances. Okay, let's set an example. Imagine you want to run a business in your community, and you want to align, as we said, environmentalist groups, social organizations, local enterprises, so business unions and labor unions as well, into making sure that the type of service that you are offering makes sense. It is valuable to them. It is valuable to the customer segment or to what you want to offer. In this case, we propose one very simple dynamic that starts with setting a starting point, a long-term challenge, an idea, a purpose that might be burning in the community. Why do we create this? Well, do we have a big environmental problem that is chasing us, or do we have a big mental health crisis that is, a problem in our community, or do we have an aging population that needs, let's say, support, or do we have a big, let's say, structural unemployment? We define the long-term challenge. Do we need financial stability for this initiative? Are we sure we are giving something back to the community. We need an idea, a challenge that is a good heading that people might want to solve, to address. And we transform that challenge, that heading, into a dilemma, a specific tension in which people must take a position. What is our main impact priority? Is it addressing structural unemployment? Is it giving job opportunities to people with disabilities? Or is it giving job opportunities to people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds? Or is it giving opportunities to young people with higher education who would otherwise leave the region? Okay, I know we want to solve everything, but in order to engage people in a strategic decision-making process, you need to align in one objective, because this is what will then allow you to set a goal and start distributing responsibilities. So we create a dilemma based on what is our main impact priority, what should be our main revenue stream, our main activity. Do we want to give free services to someone or offer discounts to reach a new customer segment? And from that, we derive an objective. We will give you an example. Imagine you are this entrepreneur leading mental health or proposing mental health therapies to address the challenge of mental health, let's say, problems in the region, which might be particularly acute compared to other regions. And you want to see with relevant stakeholders in your region, how should we help with the mental health crisis? If you remember in the very first session, we said that people don't care about the what you offer. They care about the specific need. They care about what their desires, their needs, etc., etc. So the mental health crisis in our region could actually be solved in many different ways. So what we propose is that you set up a group discussion with your relevant stakeholders, with your steering group, with your let's say the people who might participate or might have an interest in participating in the governance of your activity, and ask them to position in a tight situation. It's not about doing a little bit of everything. It's about being able to rank your priorities and say, look, we have limited time and money. We will dedicate some of it to direct activities to support people with mental health problems, some of it to mental health awareness campaigns to help people who might be suffering from them or have some acquaintances who actually are, understand what's going on, or we might dedicate some money to research and development. That's what will allow your social business model to, and the people participating in the project, to actually, define priorities and dedicate time, resources, money to the different ideas of your project. And that can be, in the very beginning, a very intuitive decision. It doesn't need to be based on, let's say, a big calculation. It's about putting yourself and everyone in a tight situation and encouraging people to make a decision. What's our priority based on intuition, needs, expertise, knowledge, and understanding of community needs? Yep. And that, which might look like a very simple example, it works very well. And we, as let's say, when we do consulting with larger enterprises, we use this to start designing, let's say, big strategic plans that have big investment decisions associated, because it helps businesses understand the immediate priorities of the governance board or of their community. When we work with big cooperatives with a large number a cooperative base, let's say, this helps see what's the big priority in their activities. Yeah, if you remember when we designed the social business model, we said that we wanted to address mental health issues among school-age kids. We also mentioned enterprises. We also mentioned old people who might be lonely. What's our priority? We need to put ourselves in a tight situation and make a decision that we will then use to start elaborating on the activities. And that's strategic planning, strategic thinking based on our understanding of the community. Okay, and you can replicate this sort of discussion model with your groups of interest, the people that you want to engage in one activity, people who you want to engage in discussing service lines, etc., etc. Carmen says, yes, I understand. For example, in our biosphere reserve, we have the business associations of the reserve, and they all support and promote it together. Furthermore, the reserve has a citizen participation council where companies, residents, associations are represented. We could all together make decisions to take action. There, we could explain what we can contribute. Yes, exactly. So it's about animating a discussion oriented towards results and objectives. Okay, identifying the specific objectives that drive participation and deriving action plans from there. That's one example of potential discussions you might have with stakeholders. Another example, imagine, let's do a different one. This one. Imagine that as part of your social business model, you have some dissemination purpose. No, we always care about dissemination, about promoting active conscience about societal, environmental issues, but we sometimes lack the strategic thinking of what we want to say and to whom. Okay, so this is an example of how you could animate a discussion around those topics. Again, we also do this when we do, for instance, marketing plans with businesses, but also when we do, like community engagement strategies with cooperatives, social business models of different shapes. And what we do is we print this page in big, and we ask people to write in each of these, let's say, squares, what they want to tell to each of these stakeholders. Let me see. Yeah. For instance, imagine that I want to, let's say, promote climate awareness among local enterprises. So what do I want? I cannot. How can I do it? Well, it can be, for instance, an internal email marketing campaign targeted to social economic organizations. Do you see the letters in the, no? Okay, sorry. I was trying some innovation. Sorry, don't worry. I'll do it in here. Yeah, I'll do it like this. Yeah. So basically, what we propose is that you collectively discuss who do you want to tell what. For instance, do I need to do mental health awareness in schools? How will I do it? I will promote awareness among teachers first, so that they introduce mental health awareness as part of structural curriculum. Yeah. And you can replicate this type of discussion. Sorry, I think you cannot see it. You can replicate this type of discussion for each of these squares. Do I need to promote active aging among public administrations to, let's say, incentivize investment? Well, engage public administrations in discussions around investment in active aging. So essentially what we are saying is you can use this as a tool to discuss who you want to talk and about what. And you can be more specific than what I am doing today, okay? Now this is very, let's say, high level, so a little bit back, but you could be more specific, and it will help you see what type of decisions you want people to make in which areas, okay? Another example, imagine you need to map partnership propositions across several stakeholders. Well, you can use this tool to, okay, in your steering group, start identifying potential collaborators. Look, in funding agreements with local enterprises, I need companies with intense corporate social responsibility policies, standard framework agreements. Yeah, and you map like this the potential collaborations in your area. Do you need provision or cross-selling with, for instance, local enterprises? No, the example of the cooperatives. Okay, agreement with, let's imagine, food, a grocery store owner to promote each other's business activities. Yeah, and you map the potential partnership propositions across several stakeholders. Do I need families to engage in organizing one yearly event to raise awareness and funds around mental health needs? Yeah, so this is a potential activity that you can do on your own and with your collaborators to actually identify what you need and what you can give to different stakeholders. And this is a type of activity, of dynamic, that it is based on the most simple way of community engagement, which is inviting people to have an open discussion. Yeah, and from this, you derive, let's say, strong collaboration activities that are a little bit more long-lasting than just one discussion, than just one call. Yeah, so it's a tool that is useful for you to activate action. Okay, so basically now I would like you to start doing this with me. And make a proper stakeholder map and discussion to see who you think you can talk to and what can you get from them and what can you offer to them. Okay, it's the idea is to discuss the stakeholder map of your region, think of their potential involvement, and maybe share how could you actually engage with them. Okay, I'm gonna share with you again one Excel file, and I would like you to start writing names of stakeholder groups, and we will then discuss what motivations or interests they might have, how can they participate, and what type of involvement you will offer them. Okay, this is the Excel file. Stakeholder mapping. and I'm gonna share it with you. And if you can access it here, or you can just share your thoughts in the chat if you want. But basically, the idea is that we go through the different columns and think, okay, who are the key stakeholder groups of our region? What are their characteristics? Do they have a lot of budget? Do they not? Where are they located? Okay. Where are they located? Which channels can I use to contact them? Why would they be interested in getting involved or in your business idea actually happening? Okay. Some people might not be interested in the very beginning in getting involved in your project, but they do want this to happen, let's say. Okay. And then we will think of in which areas we can give them a saying and how can we give them a word, let's say, the type of involvement. Okay. I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it, and we'll try to make a list of potential stakeholders. Okay. So what do you think? We've got a few. We've got schools, we've got grocery store owners, we've got youth groups, we've got local farmers, we've got politicians in the council, we've got big corporations with shops in the region, we've got professional therapists, professionals of nature, sports. What else could we have? Visitors and tourists. That's a very good
Make
point.
a decision.
Sorry, Amal, what did you say?
Maybe we can add make a decision.
What do you mean by maker decision?
Make a decision like the, for example, the governmental officers, which are responsible for for development, rural development in some regions.
Okay, yeah, so policymakers, no?
Policymakers, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Policymakers. In the very first day, we also said travel agencies or tour operators. We also said transport providers. Yeah. Okay. So we've got a bunch of potential stakeholders who could be involved in this. They have different sets of characteristics. Okay, some of them, I don't know if it's very readable for you. To me, it's a little bit inconvenient when it's bold. Some of them have low budget, like youth groups. They are particularly low budget, but some of them have sorry, no. But some of them have higher budget, no, like big corporations with shops in the region. In some cases, they are heavily attached to the community, but in some cases, they are not so much. So they do not have that much purpose-driven motivation to participate. No, like big corporation is high budget, but low attachment. Youth groups is low budget, but high attachment, but they have low operational capacity because some of them study abroad, some of them don't have time, whereas the corporations, they have large operational capacity. Okay, so this is something that we need to do to start mapping our stakeholders. What else should we do? We should see their motivations or interests, okay? Yeah. Sorry. We should see what's their interest in us running this type of activity. Okay, the grocery store owner might have a purpose-driven motivation, but might also have an economic driven motivation. More people in the activity, more visitors, more revenue. Yeah. This applies as well, for instance, to local farmers. It applies to many people who are both business, people involved in business, and also people from the local environment, okay? And it applies also to politicians. Politicians might be driven by a purpose, but might be driven as well for political, the incentives of the success of the economic activity in the region. What is interesting here is to see how we can involve these people in making decisions. For schools, you said, they know the children, so they can decide how to divide the groups to work with. That's a good point. Besides the groups, I would say also sense check the quality of the content. Does it address the actual needs of school-age kids in terms of mental health. But I would like to hear your ideas on the potential participation of different stakeholders. I know this is a little bit challenging. No one with an idea, the first thing that they want to discuss is how can I make other people make decisions? You know, usually people want to keep decisions for themselves. But I think it's a good exercise to push yourself on what decisions would be better placed in an alliance, in a partner, rather than on my own. Okay? Let's think for 5 minutes about just this column, the areas of participation. Okay, I think that's really fruitful in terms of then actually planning this engagement. Thoughts, ideas, comments? I'll share some examples that we wrote in the low side of this list. Okay? For instance, in the business idea of the forest bathing, the mental health therapies in the nature, there are many topics, let's say, that we need to make decisions on. For instance, what is the best route in the forest to actually run this activity that is accessible to all the people, that is safe for school-age kids, that is engaging and fun to adults? Yeah. That's one example of decisions that need to be made, in which external stakeholders, like professionals of nature sports, might have a word on, might want to participate. Yeah. Other areas. There is the logistical routes for clients. We said, yeah, we might want to bring people by car to the area. Well, someone needs to make sure that the route is as efficient as possible, etc., etc. Do we need a transport provider participating in that? Yeah. Or we said we wanted to offer group packages that make it cheaper to come recurrently or to come in groups. Well, maybe the travel agency or tour operator can help us with shaping this type of packages. So this is about finding the opportunity to give people a say in this type of decisions. And it doesn't mean we make them, let's say, responsible for our company, but it helps us create a map of decisions and stakeholders. Yeah. And maybe in some cases, we will involve them directly in our business planning. And in some cases, it might only mean that we will externalize the decision making in this type of activity, or that we will set up an agreement framework agreement with them. For instance, with travel agencies, we might want to say, look, you can commercialize my activities on your own platforms and get a small revenue from that, but you are responsible from managing group packages. I will keep it at my price. Okay? So the offers are on them, and it's on them to actually manage to create profitable opportunities. This is a way in which you can see how you involve people in different decision-making processes. Essentially, what we want you to say, what we want you to keep is this Excel file as a tool. Okay, if you notice, each of the last sessions have had, all of them, one associated tool. Okay, in the first session, we discussed the social business model, the framework in which, in the first session, we discussed the customer segment. What does my customer look for? What do they need? What are their interests? What are their motivations, their pains, their gains? That's one tool. In the second lesson, we discussed the social business model as a whole. Okay, so a way to map all the priorities, all the activities, all the operations of our project. Yes. In the third session, we discussed the feasibility analysis, the viability plan, the Excel file to actually start calculating the profitability of our project. And in the fourth session, we discuss the commercial plan, how to make decisions to attract customer segments and how to plan our marketing activities. And today we do the stakeholder mapping, okay? So each session has an associated tool that should help you make decisions. Who do I target? How do I organize my business? What's my sales goals, let's say, and my feasibility plan? Who do I want to reach? And who do I want to engage with to improve all the elements of my business model? Do you want to discuss the stakeholder map? Do you have any idea that is not reflected in here? Do you have comments, doubts, topics that you would like to discuss? No, the idea that's it. That's the idea is that you are able to use this as a tool to map people who have different interests in your business model happening. Okay. That saying, we are almost done. Basically, what we wanted to discuss with you now is that after this session, there are no more lessons, let's say. What we have now is individual or group mentoring. Okay? What does this mean? It means that we are no longer giving like 3-hour talks on social business models. What we want to offer or propose, let's say, is that you reach out to us or to Veronica to see how you can engage with us and we can help you shape business idea or better understand the tools that we discussed over the last weeks. Veronica, please.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. What we have done is send you an email to all the Vice Federal Reserve managers. So please answer this, talk with your stakeholders at home and complete the survey, because we need to schedule all the all the mentorings with Paul and Blanca. So thank you so much, Paul and Blanca. You have been fantastic teachers. You are fantastic teachers. And please write us, write myself, or write my colleague Carmen. And also we can schedule with Paul and Blanca, but we need to know who is going to get a mentoring with them. So thank you.